Do you use measures when you record?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Because I normally do the seconds, the time frame when it comes to like free form audio. Not yeah. Oh, the beer. So I mean, don't watch an episode of the JRE, so you have to explain to me their tradition. They start what? What do they do exactly?
I love that we always open the podcast by mentioning the Lord and Savior Joe Rogan.
Yes. Once a Californian, now a Texan.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he's originally from Boston.
Is he? He
And
doesn't.
don't ask me why I know facts about Joe Rogan.
And I don't hear a Boston accent from him.
Yeah, I mean, the Boston accent, I feel like that's a relic of a bygone era. Like people from the boomer era.
Dude, I'm still a sucker for that accent. I love
It's
that
a good
accent.
accent.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for bringing the Pumpkinhead
Dude, we're
beer.
not even getting sponsored by them.
We'll censor that out. I don't think we're really ready for sponsors.
Okay. No, I mean, again, you might be surprised. I'm still surprised how many views we got.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. We were both shocked by the view count.
Yeah.
We're at 600 now, or like over 600 on the first episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Beyond all our expectations.
Dude, I don't even know who's watching this, but hey, thank you, followers, fans, whatever you want to call it. I really thought they were not going to watch us because, one, I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like audio. I don't like video podcasts. I wish this was an audio podcast.
I know. But I like video podcasts, and I just like the option.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if there's a podcast on YouTube, I'll just play it, but put my phone like in my pocket and ride the train or something. So I'm
Gotcha.
not even watching it, but it's like if I pull out my phone, I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have YouTube Premium?
No.
Is this another sponsorship for YouTube?
No premium, although I've been strongly considering getting it because the ads are... I have ad block.
They're
on my
getting
computer.
worse, man.
They
now
are.
they're adding 30 seconds. It's now 30 seconds now instead of 15 seconds.
Yeah, and they're like unskippable a lot of the time. They take away the skip ad, skip here or whatever, skip now. But let's not talk about depressing things.
Yes, seriously. Those are the things that just bums us out. It's like that Bukowski poem, and I haven't read Bukowski, so... But a friend of mine told me about Bukowski. It's like, it's not that you have cancer. This is like, I'm paraphrasing one of his poems. It's not that you have cancer. It's that you have cancer and someone beat you at a red light. It's those little things that piss you off, you know? So...
That's a Bukowski?
Yeah, it's a poem by
line?
Bukowski. It's something like that. It's just talking about the little things is what will trigger you and just gets you angry
Yeah.
when you're just trying to deal with the big things.
So even a cancer patient will get more pissed off about the getting cut off in traffic? Is that the
I guess
point?
so. I guess so. Or, you know.
I guess
yeah.
we have to read the quote to know what he meant.
Yeah, I don't know. I should read
Bukowski seems
but I don't
great.
know.
I've read a little, but I'm not I feel guilty about my reading.
So do
habits.
I've met a lot of people who are fast readers, and I'm kind of jealous of them. I am a slow reader, and I hate how slow I read.
Are you slow because you're like literally taking a long time to read the words, or do you have to like go back and reread a lot?
The first one. And then also...
That's good. That's better.
My pacing is so bad. Like, I read when I feel like it. I wish I had the discipline to read, like, I'm going to read a chapter a day kind of thing. And it doesn't help that there's a lot of distractions, you know,
Yeah.
nowadays.
Like all
in
these podcasts.
Yeah, as an example. Oh, I want to mention something. We did not talk about this. This just happened out of coincidence, a sign from the universe. Maybe they were doing something cool, but we have matching socks, and we didn't even ask about that. We should high five, high socks.
I think that camera caught it. We got to do it higher for this camera. I don't know about your socks. All of mine are starting to develop holes in the soles. So mine definitely, look at that.
I was thinking about getting wearing my taco socks, but there's a big hole in my thumb, my big toe, so I didn't want to expose any more skin that I already am.
I'm so glad you ended up with these because we get to match.
So cool.
Like
it's so funny.
Full transparency. I didn't even know you had the same socks. Neither of us knew.
Neither did I.
And they're just cute little pink and yellow and blue donut socks. Mm-hmm. Very out of character for our usual black and gray attire.
Yes. And I did wear black and gray last episode. I know I was wearing a black shirt.
Black shirt. I forget what. Gray pants? Or am I just wearing your outfit from last time?
Yeah.
And you're wearing
just
the inverse of it?
I guess so, because you were wearing shorts back then.
I know. I was cringing a little to see my bare calves on YouTube.
You sexy hairy legs. Okay, let's start the episode. We
already started.
But
this is all gold.
Maybe this is a progress, like the intro. We have some updates. We agreed upon the name of a podcast.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce it? You introduce. You're the host.
No, I'm not.
you handled all the hosting duties.
I guess. It's because I sure. It's called the Odd Podcast, OD Podcast, but not OD. It's Odd Podcast. You don't say the O and the D. Just the abbreviation. It's Odd Podcast.
I really like that. I was pronouncing it because we just did this in text. I was pronouncing it OD in my head.
Oh shit!
But that's too heavy.
I know. You don't want that.
Odd is nice.
Yeah, we don't want the other people, victims, or anything to get angry. Now, we want to be family friendly.
When they see it in type, they will think that.
Could be.
It's odd with one D because it's our initials, Oscar and Dylan.
Huh.
That's where it comes from, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm just making sure I knew what we even decided. Mm-hmm. But right, the Odd Podcast. Cool. Okay. That's better than OD.
My other question is this for you. We're thinking about doing a theme song.
Yeah.
Do you want to do every episode a different theme song, or should we just stick to one theme song?
That depends. If we can nail it, knock it out of the park with a first theme song, we'll just use it every time.
Okay.
There's the one podcast I name dropped. Well, one of like three. Last time, ODcast does a musical intro of every.
To his stuff.
This is another thing I was thinking about after listening back to the last one. Is like we both talked about podcasts we like, and I think the podcast people listen to is so like individual. Like what's good for one person's like not. Maybe good for the other. I don't think you would like ODcast. Is basically what I'm saying.
It's true, but I talked to some people who listened to that first episode, and they thought it was funny that we talked about podcasts. It's like a podcast about podcasts, but it's not really. I don't even know what to categorize this podcast. But it doesn't matter. We're just talking. We're not even putting this on like a podcast app. It's only on YouTube.
We will. I want to put it on like Apple Podcasts or what do you use for? Is there a Google Podcast?
I don't use Spotify. I only use Apple and Google.
But you don't have an Apple phone, but you use Apple Podcasts?
I have an Apple TV and an iPad.
Okay, so you do use some.
But if I'm on the go, I use my phone and I use the Apple Podcast. I mean Google Podcast.
Okay. Is that just called Google Podcasts?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm going to put this down because I feel like it's creating dead air.
I do want to say I want to thank everybody who saw the first episode. I was not expecting to be quote unquote popular. So I don't know about you, but it's making me feel kind of excited for the second one to see if it's just as good as the first one. Makes me wonder, like, did Smashing Pumpkin heads hated our episode fans or Smashing Pumpkin fans that we don't know? Especially in my perspective, since I'm not a fan.
I know it was the two Pumpkins fans closest to us enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Robert and Ben had a positive response.
I don't know if they talked to you about this, but they really liked it. They kind of want to be guests.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. And Robert's local, so we can have him in person. Mm-hmm. Ben could be a like I said, like a Skype guest.
Yes.
We'll have to figure out some technology to make that happen. But to answer your question of what this podcast is, we do have a theme developing. We're reviewing musical artists that are important to both of us.
Yeah. But I mean, we can change it as we go, but
Yeah. I think we should keep it free form.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever's on our minds.
Free form category for podcasts.
Is that a category?
No. I don't know.
Comedy/free form.
Uh-huh.
Right. We haven't even introduced the theme, but maybe this is where I can put a clip of last 2 weeks ago's episode where you decided our theme for us.
Right here. We're going to review 2 albums. Okay?
Okay.
Bob Dylan.
Oh.
Okay, we're going to review your favorite album from Bob Dylan and why.
Okay.
And his last album. And just talk about it, what you think of his last album. That's it.
I don't know if I've heard his last album.
Dude, it's something else.
Is it good?
No comment. Wow, interesting, right?
Yeah. So do we even have to say it again?
Well, okay, let me start by asking you. I want you to talk about it first. What's your favorite Bob Dylan album?
Oh man, okay. I thought about this a lot over the past week, and I'm going to go with Blonde on Blonde.
Nice.
But I think we should.
Nice.
Are we going to start with the album that's each of our favorites, or are we going to start with a new one, or what?
Let's end it with the new one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's chronological.
Are you sticking with your choice from last 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I am.
We both picked mid-'60s, early Dylan records.
We maybe you'll agree with me on this. You're more of a Bob Dylan fan than I am, but I think
Really?
yeah,
I think
dude.
you're pretty hardcore.
Dude, I can't recall his quotes, like his lyrics like that.
Neither can I.
But I know the references. Okay, let me put a pin on that. I just want to say this to you. One of my favorite songs from Dylan that I heard recently that's, not from the 60s period, it's 1988, Death Is Not the End. Really good song.
See, I don't know that one.
Nick Cave covered it. Nick Cave's version is really good. But yeah, I highly recommend that song. Okay, going back.
1988, was that on Oh Mercy? Do you know the album it's from?
It's him playing on stage, and it's mostly like black and like a two-tone picture.
Was it a live release that you're talking about?
No, I don't think it's a live release.
Okay. I want to keep to the Googling.
Yeah.
Although you were looking up on Spotify last time, the song titles. We can do that.
Okay,
I think.
I'm fine with that. But okay.
There's some lyrics I want to cite from the new album that I think I need to look up.
Rub-a-dub-dub.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I do. So before we went to that tangent, I did want to say that you might disagree with me here, but I think Dylan's era from 1965 through 66, maybe even 67. I'm going to say 65 and 66 is this golden period, the most prolific that any artist has ever done.
Yeah, like an album each year, if not more.
There's like
right?
3 or 4 albums per year between those 2 years. Blonde on Blonde, Highway 66, right?
61.
61, sorry.
But wait, bringing it all back home is 65 or is it 64?
66. Not 64. Not 64 at all.
It's the earliest of the ones we're talking about, though. It's like the beginning of his electric period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before even like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah. And then you. But yeah, I really do think that period is his most prolific and changed music history. I mean, I don't want to be a VH1 documentary talking head, but
it's true.
It makes me wonder.
Can't argue with
it
that.
makes me wonder if maybe he was driven, or if he used a lot of Adderall or speed just to crank all that shit up.
Oh yeah, I think he was pretty into amphetamines and like uppers, and he was
uppers
really
and pot
and like acid too. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think he turned on the Beatles to definitely weed, but maybe acid too.
Acid too. That's the rumor. I mean, that he didn't give it to them, but like he introduced them, like, hey, you should do acid. Along in this episode, I really want you to do a Bob Dylan
Oh man,
I
you're
know
gonna
you-
make me do that,
dude.
You,
I love
you just
doing Dylan all the
snuck
time.
in a little like a Rolling Stone Dylan parody. It sounds weirdly close to your Billy Corgan, the whiny.
I wish
they
I
have
could
similar
do that
voices.
high pitched nasally voice. That's something remarkable from Billy Corgan that he can do that.
And Bob has a little of that too. In fact, this morning, this is to tell you how much I prepared for this podcast. There's that Netflix Scorsese documentary, like Rolling Thunder review.
Is it good?
I've seen half of it. It was really good, and I love that period of his career.
I didn't watch it because I heard the critics talk that a big part of that area of that movie is all fiction. Because they were saying it's a documentary.
It's for sure fiction, but that was kind of the whole idea like Bob hired Sam Shepard, the playwright, to like create fake or like little skits and stuff during that tour. So it's mixing fact and fiction.
All right, I'll give it a watch then.
It's good, but we're kind of going off on a tangent, and neither of us picked mid-'70s era albums, so we don't have to get into this. But
we're not going to his Christian based.
That part I can't even really get into.
Have you ever met a guy, a Dylan fan, Bob Dylan fan, that said, my favorite album is Self-Portrait? And they're looking at you straight in the face. I haven't met one.
Self-Portrait considered Christian album phase?
I think so. I mean, after the accident, you can make the argument that every album is Christian based, even if he doesn't talk about Christianity. Because he made a argument in one of the interviews that he said, I'm still a Christian even if I don't talk about it. There are things about it that I will consider a Christian album. I'm just not going to reference it like I used to. I'm paraphrasing what he said.
Are we in Billy Corgan territory again with the Christianity buried in the music?
I mean, but Billy's more vague. No, Billy's more upfront about it.
Well, it doesn't get much more upfront than like Slow Train Coming.
Well, Dylan had a period when he talked about it all the effing time. I need to make sure if I'm going to swear or not. So I'm just going to start censoring myself. All the effing time, and then he stopped.
Dylan did.
Yeah, Bob Dylan did. So I feel like Dylan had a peak, So now he's just in a. Right now, we'll talk more about it when we're talking about the new album. Right now, he's just in the category of "I want to die now. Please let me die." For the love of God.
That's your opinion.
Yeah.
I think his new album has a lot of like spunk and like humor in it.
I agree, but let's stop, and I want to hear your thoughts of Blonde on Blonde.
Well, Bringing It All Back Home comes first, so maybe we should do that one first.
Okay.
I don't even think we said it. We're just relying on
my favorite
the
album
memory.
from Mr. Robert Zimmerman is Bringing It All Back Home. I enjoy Subterranean Homesick Blues, even though it's kind of a cliche, overplayed song.
Great song.
It's funny hearing critics say that he arguably wrote the first hip hop song, and that's the one, And it's funny because I don't remember Bob Dylan taking credit. It was like, whatever, That's my Dylan, being neutral about it.
I wonder if he thinks he invented rap.
Yeah,
Because he's basically rapping in that song.
Yeah, great stuff.
Talk singing, very rhythmic and fast. I don't think anyone was doing that before. But Bob Dylan seemed to have like stolen a lot of things from just like random folk artists he would see in clubs in like Greenwich Village and stuff. So maybe he just saw someone doing that and was like, hey, I want to do that.
He pulled a Picasso, right?
Great artist steal.
Yeah. So you got my reference. Good artist copy, great artist steal.
There we go.
But I want.
Wait, can we reverse for a second?
Yeah,
Why?
sure.
What got you into Bob Dylan? I wanted to ask
funny.
you this.
Thank you for saying that. I was in my teenage years, and everybody was getting into rock and roll, and everybody was talking about how Bob Dylan is the greatest songwriter of all time, greatest songwriter of the 20th century. So I tried to listen to him, and I did not like it. But everybody's telling me, no, check it out. It's really good. I did not like. I'll ask you this question as I'm answering my question. There's two kinds of music people: the ones who are heavily driven on the melody and the music, and the other ones that are heavily driven on the lyrics. I'm more into the music. So Bob Dylan was my eye opener of paying attention to the lyrics. That lyrics are more just as important as the melody of the music. So when I just zoned out, filtered his voice, because I didn't like his voice in the beginning, and started paying attention to the lyrics, it opened my mind. It's like, okay, I see why he's amazing. And then I started listening to more of his music as time went by.
Where did you start?
I started from the 61 album.
Like his very first self-titled?
And then Free Will and Bob Dylan.
Oh, you really started at the beginning.
Yeah.
Good for you. Like I haven't listened to those first like 3 or 4 fully just him and a guitar records in a long time, but I loved those when I was like first learning how to play guitar and learning what songwriting was all about.
Also, I've got a compliment you here. Getting to meet you and knowing that your name is because of Bob Dylan inspired me to listen to more Bob Dylan. Because as you get older, you get to meet other people who are huge Dylan fans, and they're like boomer age, or sometimes younger than that, or and I get to see the perspective of Bob Dylan and why and how great he is. His lyrics are astounding, and I feel like in music, in rock and roll, American music, there's a threshold if you want to be better than Dylan. Like there's people that are better and worse than Dylan, or songs that are better than worse than Dylan. And sometimes I feel like some Lou Reed songs are better than some of Dylan's songs, and vice versa. So you start thinking. I start thinking in that way. I use like Bob Dylan is a threshold of like which songwriter is better or worse.
Interesting. He's his own like quality scale. The Bob Dylan meter.
Yeah.
I know it's not quite what you said, but
yes, that's what I'm trying to say. You said it perfectly. Okay, going back to bringing it all back home. What I like about that album is, in general, it's a swan song to his old era of acoustic stuff, and him introducing himself with the band. I like the beginning of it with the band. But I also like the second half when he's basically saying, I'm not going to be doing acoustic anymore. This is the last time I'm doing this. Enjoy it. And he has some great songs in it. So that's the main reason why I enjoy it. But now let's get into the little details. I like Maggie's Farm. Maggie's Farm is really cool.
Do you think it's a political statement?
Oh, yeah, totally. As I'm getting older and as I'm listening to Bob Dylan's lyrics again and again and again, I think he's a hardcore socialist. And sometimes it's obvious. Some people don't know that. Some people don't want to bring it up. That's fine. But like it's in the lyrics. Bob Dylan made the argument that he never wrote protest songs, even though he's part of the protest scene. But you can make that argument if it is or isn't. But I definitely see that he's talking about how society is and how bad society can be. And he's just showing that we need to do better.
Yeah, I've always heard Maggie's Farm cited as a very political song, but it's very abstract and like figurative in language too. Like I ain't gonna work on Maggie's Farm. Is Maggie's Farm like capitalism? Is that the only metaphor? Because what if he just... When I first heard that song, like my mom especially, like both my parents, like you said, they named me Dylan because... they like Bob Dylan. Was
your mom a Dylan fan?
Yeah, she was the bigger Dylan fan.
I thought your pops was.
My dad was like more into like he just was always searching for new music. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was born, like he probably went through a pretty heavy Dylan phase. But it was my mom who I think was always like he's like her top musical artist ever. And like I think she's someone who listens to music much more for the lyrics than its musical content. So like it makes sense.
Do you think for the people that don't know this, Dylan's mom is born outside of the United States,
Yes, she's from Thailand.
And English is her second language. Is it safe to assume that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So do you think that she was listening to more of the lyrics to improve her English, or like just because of that she,
That could be.
enjoyed that more?
Yeah. I'd have to ask her like when she first got into it. I know she was in her teens, and that could have been something to do with it. Like the lyrics are so evocative and like specific that they're probably, and he enunciates very clearly. Like the lyrics are always very like they're in the forefront of the mix usually, as opposed to like the band. So yeah, that's a good point. Were your parents, were they ever into Bob Dylan?
No. My parents made fun of me. Other than my mom, my dad made fun of me for liking the Beatles a lot. Like, in his perspective, me liking the Beatles was like this equivalent of like if I were raised in the 70s, me liking Kiss. Like, the Beatles is demonic, it's stupid, it's gay. How dare, like, not how dare you, but like, you can listen to better stuff. And they were listening. The funny part is at that time, he still does this. He listens to classical, like, romantic ballads, 70s, 60s, and 50s Mexican music. Mm-hmm. But like, for him, the Beatles and rock and roll just seemed really corny and bad. So, I mean, me listening to the Beatles in some aspect was rebellious. So him hearing about Dylan, he doesn't know who Dylan is. He doesn't care. So my mom, she kind of knew, but she didn't know. So she was more of a Beatles fan than anything. So yeah. So overall, they just made fun of me for enjoying rock and roll. English-speaking rock and roll.
Right. I was going to bring that up as like a possible connection between our upbringings, because we both had that like English as a second language in at least our mothers. But she likes the Beatles, your mom.
Yeah, she does. She does. Her favorite is John. So is mine. I will connect this though. Back in the day, I used to work at a library, and I had a coworker. She was Asian as well, half Asian. The way we bonded is we quoted Subterranean Homesick Blues all the time. We just quoted like one line. Wow. It's like, you don't know which way the weather, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, or stuff like that. It was just really funny, and we just tried to like one up one another and try to make each other laugh. Wow. So that's one way that I enjoyed Bob Dylan more. So
to bring it back to Subterranean, the music video for that, it's got to be one of the first like great music videos.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's holding the cue cards in the alley.
And who's the poet again? I forget his name.
There's a poet in it, like in the background or something.
Ginsberg is there in the background.
I forgot about that part. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I still need to see that movie.
Which movie?
From the 65 period.
Don't Look Back?
Don't Look Back.
Oh, it's incredible. It's a great movie.
See, this is what I'm saying. You're more of a Dylan fan. I still haven't seen The Last Waltz.
Really?
Every time I try to watch it, I'm just snoozing. You're
not into the band that much?
I mean, I am, and I'm, yes, no, I don't know. I for some reason, like, there's some bad songs in that The Last Waltz. Like the one with Neil Diamond?
Yeah, I like his song there better than like hearing like him like Caroline or Sweet Caroline or whatever. I like the song he did there. But it seems very out of place. I've never really heard anyone express that, but I agree with you. Like I like made myself watch it because I heard how legendary it was, but there are some like bad parts or just songs I don't really connect with.
I mean, this is during Martin Scorsese Coke period, so you thought that it would be more faster paced than anything. I'll say this. I don't want to say it because I'm going to piss off Led Zeppelin fans. I'll change the topic.
Go ahead. We don't owe Led Zeppelin fans anything.
Okay, fine. Even though I've seen, I'm just going to say it. The documentary, The Song Remains the Same by Zeppelin.
I've never seen that.
Good.
Is that just I thought it was a live show.
It is. It's really boring. Really boring.
But if you like Zeppelin, it's probably pretty cool.
I talked to some Zeppelin fans and they say it's boring. Some, not all of them, some. They say it's boring. Okay, going back to bringing it all back home. There is, I forget the name of the song, but one of my favorite introductions or intros to a song is in that album is where Bob Dylan starts strumming the guitar.
When he laughs.
Yeah, someone laughs. Is it him or is it someone
you're
else?
Right. It's mainly another guy.
I don't know what they're laughing. I want to know the inside joke. I'm pretty sure in a book they'll tell me what the inside joke is, but like that laugh is so contagious. I even start laughing sometimes.
It's very funny. Yeah, it's like a way deeper voice than Bob's. I always thought it was him until like I realized like the same guy singing the song could not sound like that. I think they're just laughing because he kind of does a false start or like the band doesn't come in at the right time.
Sounds like pretty good. I don't know what the mistake was. So it must have been like someone's face reaction while recording or something. I just like little things like that.
And they kept it in the album.
Okay, so I'm done with it unless you want something to talk about it, like your perspective of it or anything.
I mean, how long have we been talking?
Pretty long.
Oh, shit. Yeah, we're already 30 minutes in.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, like bringing it all back home. It's a classic, but I think for all the same reasons you said, like it's the bridge between his acoustic and his rock stuff. Like, I find it less satisfying than like his fully electric work, or even maybe I'm just kind of biased against like singer-songwriter, like just acoustic guitar and voice stuff now that I would be less likely to go back to it. But it has some of my all-time favorite songs. No, Love Minus Zero, No Limits feels like an acoustic song, but it's like kind of it's in the electric half. And then some of his most like weird biblical epic acoustic songs.
The Eve song, that one's really good.
Gates of Eden or
Gates of
something.
Eden, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I didn't go back and listen to it.
I did.
Good.
just to get a refresher.
I listened to my pick again, and I listened to the new one several times.
Oh, you listened to it several times?
I think 3 times.
Oh, wow. I just listened to it once.
Well, you heard it like this week?
Yeah, I heard it this week, and I heard it when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Blonde on Blonde.
Okay. About Blonde on Blonde. It's not the next album after yours. It's the second. Two albums from there. So we're skipping Highway 61.
I was thinking about listening to Highway 61 because I also like what I like about that one. Maybe I'm confusing myself with that one and bringing it all back home. I love the Moby Dick reference about Captain Ahab.
Oh yeah. What song is that on?
It's the one of the Dream songs.
Isn't that on Bringing It All Back Home?
Then it's in Bringing It All Back Home.
Bob Dylan's Dream.
Yeah. Then it's in Bringing It All Back Home. Yeah. Oh, yeah, with the Columbus and Say Good Luck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a good one. See, now all the Bob Dylan fans are like, "How dare you? You got it all wrong." I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to remember it from.
Yeah. We never claim to be totally factually accurate.
We don't want to be. I don't want it to be, especially a podcast that's freeform. Let's just let it be and have fun and make people laugh or sad or whatever.
Yeah. So Blonde on Blonde.
Oh
okay.
Yeah. Let me. I want to. What did you think of the first song? Do you like it or hate it?
Oh, They'll Stone You song?
Rainy Day Woman, number 12 and 35.
Oh, you know the numbers. I never really remember the full title.
Uh-huh.
It was really interesting listening to that again because I haven't heard it in at least a few years. And I'm pretty sure all the laughing and like shouting over the crowd was added afterwards. It has to be. Like it'd be really weird to record that song with like a live mic in a room. That's how they did things back then, but it just felt kind of like an overdub.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm totally wrong, but it sounded to me like, now that I know a bit more about like how albums are made, like slightly more, like it felt like something they would add in another track. But I love it. It's a great song. It creates a fun party vibe.
I'm so happy that you say that. I think that's one of the reasons why we're friends, because I know a lot of Dylan fans who hate that song. That's one of the arguments, one of the worst songs that he's ever written. Maybe it's the Mexican in me, but I love the band, the New Orleans vibe feel to it. When I say Mexican in me, I'm talking about the brass instruments, the tuba, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I enjoy it, especially from the region that I'm born. That stuff is really popular, and hearing Dylan doing that, so good. And it's like a big refresher, big palette, because you always hear him in a band or playing by himself, and then out of nowhere it starts with a brass band.
Yeah, I wonder if that's his first time with like horns in a song. I
think
can't
it
remember
is.
any other time. There's like organ and stuff on like a Rolling Stone, but I think
never
that's
thought
the
of it that
first
way.
brass. That's
I
cool.
think you're correct.
There could be some obscure moment, but yeah, I like that song. But I don't get the hate from it. I've heard similar sentiments about another Blonde on Blonde song. I'm not going to say who it is, but like a
Don't say
classmate of mine at SCIC, who's one of the bigger Dylan fans I've ever met.
Bigger than you?
In some ways, I don't really know, but he hated the song "I Want You" and thought it was like
I want you so bad. Yeah,
it's a great impression.
That song does get really annoying quick.
I always like it. I think it's
It's a good one.
catchy and like it's very poppy.
I want you. One of my favorite.
What do you think of Blonde on Blonde in general?
I think it's a good album.
Okay.
I think it's a good album. I just want to say, like, one of my favorite things in pastime of my life. I love just making fun of Dylan with his voice. You know,
I used to do it a lot too, but I'm scared to do it on a podcast.
why not do that? I think you do a better job than me.
No.
Like, have you ever thought about, like, okay, do you remember that movie The Doors with Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison?
I saw it once. I hardly remember.
Do you remember the scene when his girlfriend was pregnant and Jim Morrison was convincing her to get an abortion? And it was a really sensitive, like, emotionally touching moment because it's showing Jim being, you know, a jerk, you know, instead of being like caring and supportive. I see things like that and I'm thinking to myself, imagine if Bob Dylan was like talking, like Jim Morrison talking as Bob Dylan. It's like, why don't we just get an abortion? I love you, honey, but I don't know if we should have a kid. Let's get an abortion. I don't know. That's the things that I think about when I watch movies.
Just if he was the Jim Morrison character
Or just
randomly
like the voice.
instead.
Yeah.
The thing is, he doesn't really talk just like he sings. There's a little bit. He's got a weird accent, or like maybe it's the Minnesota, but I feel like that. That's almost more like Woody Allen. Not really.
No, Woody's got that Manhattan accent. That worried Jewish voice.
Yeah.
Accent.
Different type of Jewish accent.
Is he Jewish, Robert Zimmerman?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Did you read? So no.
Zimmerman.
I mean,
Robert
yeah,
Zimmerman.
but I don't want to assume. Have you read any of his biographies?
I read the like memoir chronicles. I think.
Dude, I want to read that.
I think there's only volume 1 so far, even though it seemed like he was going to write more.
Yeah.
Maybe he's written more and I just haven't. I've been out of the loop of like Bob Dylan until you suggested this as the second podcast topic. I like wasn't even going to listen to his new album. But I'm glad. Really glad you brought it up.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, we can talk about this more when we get to the new album, but like it reawakened like the desire to listen to music when I'm painting, because that's how I did it. I didn't just put it on and listen to it. I was painting, because now I usually listen to podcasts.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, what do you do now?
Pretty much always podcasts for the last like at least over a year. But I feel like music is better for my art.
For your brain.
Yeah, a lot better. But a specific part of the painting where I'm like trying to come up with an idea and stuff, like music helps that. And podcasts always distract me. So I either have to like turn it off and ignore it, or like I can put on podcasts when I'm just doing the like rendering part of a painting and then it's fine. But for like trying to come up with an idea, like music and that new album, the new Dylan album, like inspired me in a way that I haven't felt inspired in a while. So thank you sincerely. I think it's going to open a new age where I'm going to listen to music.
The new era of Dylan Robbie.
New album, like listen to albums again.
Have you updated your website?
Not in a long time.
I'm excited to see now, like your past stuff. Like this is your period, like your podcast period of doing art, your music period of doing art.
Yeah, I mean, do you actually like? Would you actually look at my website if I updated it?
Yes.
Because I kind of feel like now that I'm on Instagram. I was avoiding Instagram for like pretty.
I mean,
several
I'm also
years.
gonna update see your Instagram and put a comment
Yeah.
saying I like this.
Yeah, you're always very supportive in social media, and I appreciate it. But I figured like no one really looks at personal websites these days.
Dude, no, that's true. No,
You don't think so?
I mean, I don't do it. I mean, unless I'm really looking into someone, if I'm seeing it, then no. That's the only time I've have. Like yesterday, I went to someone's website because I was watching Reservoir Dogs, and I wanted to know more about this actor, and the only thing I could see is they had a website. So it's things like that.
Which actor?
I
Reservoir
forget their name.
Dogs.
I forget their name. Have you watched it? Are you up to date?
Reservoir Dogs?
I mean,
Up to date? Didn't the
with-
movie come out like 30 years ago?
no, sorry. Res Dogs.
Res
Reservation
Dogs.
Dogs. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Reservation Dogs.
I don't even know what
Reservation
that
Dogs.
is.
It's a comedy. I don't think it's a comedy, but it's a comedy about these 4 Native American kiddos in Oklahoma at a reservation. Oh my God, I can't believe I said Reservoir Dogs. I'm so bad. My apologies.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. They're very similar titles.
Yeah, they did that on purpose. Not,
What
I don't know if on purpose, but yeah, they did that for a fun time.
I've never even heard of that
It's
show.
a good one. It's really heart-touching show with a lot of comic relief in some parts. But anyways, Blonde on Blonde. Should we
Brett and
edit
Brooke
it
are
right
back.
now? Let's put a album cover of Blonde on Blonde for people who don't know. It's right here.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
going
let's
to walk
pause it.
through, and I could use a bathroom break.
All right, let's pause right now. Need help?
We can check if everything's still recording. Okay, we're back.
Okay, Blonde on Blonde.
Yeah. Their voices are going to distract.
Yeah, sorry. It's all good.
Let me try to collect my thoughts.
Do you think... Nah, I'm not going to bring that up. That's the beauty of Rainy Day Woman 12 and 35. The double entendre of the word stone.
Right.
But you know how the Beatles has some kid songs? Like Yellow Submarine, All Together Now, Octopus's Garden. Do you think Dylan has some kid songs? Or childish songs?
I'm trying to think. Murder Most Foul has Rub-a-Dub in it. Blonde on Blonde. What else is even on it? I have to like look it up. The track listing. It's a long album.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's
A double.
2 vinyls.
2 LPs, yes.
Even on CD. Actually, I used to have a CD of it. It's 1 CD.
But it was like 80 minutes long, right? Or almost?
Yeah, it's close to full
Oh.
capacity.
Rainy Day Woman number 12 and 35. Pledging My Time. Visions of Johanna. One of Us Must Know. I Want You. Stuck inside of a mobile with the Memphis Blues again. This song, I love the fact that there's... Okay, for the fans that don't know this, well, you guys don't know this. There are moments where I just randomly reference a joke I have about Bob Dylan, and I tell it to my friend Dylan, and then I'm kind of like informing him about new things. So one time, this next song is Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, and the joke I was giving him, it was a joke regarding the female genitalia, because the song is about female genitalia, and his reaction was like, "Oh, I never knew that song was about female genitalia."
Wait, are you talking about me?
Yeah, because
You told me this?
Yeah, but the joke was
A long time ago, right?
It was like like last year or so. The joke was because I was listening to Cardi B's WAP.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh, yeah. I remember this now, the WAP reference.
I forget what the joke was, but I was basically referencing Cardi B's WAP and Bob Dylan's Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, saying like maybe like after Bob Dylan hearing WAP, Bob Dylan's regretting, like, oh, I should have written a better version of Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat after hearing WAP, like him trying to fix it now. That was my joke. Just like a woman, talking about women. The Spotify's not giving me the whole title of the song. Most likely you go your way. Temporary like Achilles. Absolutely Sweet Marie. Fourth time around. Obviously Five Believers and Sad Eye Lady of the Lowlands.
Yeah, I have to confess, when I was re-listening to it, I only made it through the first half, and then I got distracted. But I mean, I've listened to this album many times, and so I remember the back half. Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands is incredible.
10-minute song, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something I really respect Bob Dylan for, is like he can write really long songs and not make them drag, or like they don't feel like really filler. They're just like more and more verses. Or do you disagree? You think he has some filler songs?
I agree and disagree. Like, I agree that that's one of his biggest strengths. The problem I have is that he was the trendsetter of making all other singer-songwriters think it's okay to do that. Do you remember going to open mic nights and hearing singer-songwriters doing that, and you're thinking to yourself, when is this effing song over? Like, they're trying to imitate Bob Dylan by singing 5, 7, 10 verses, and the chorus is the same all over again. Like, sometimes it gets annoying. It all depends on the delivery, and I think Dylan can deliver it really well.
Yeah, he has conviction throughout those like 10 verses or whatever. He has the same intensity all the way through. It never feels
just like Hurricane.
The song Hurricane?
Yes.
That's a very intense song. Bob Dylan drops a few N-bombs in there, and no one, but it's in context. He's not using the word, but he kind of is. It's
no, but
it's
weird.
He's
saying it with anger. Again, this is where I mean, like, he arguably could be a socialist, because like he's showing how angry he is about what happened. I already made that joke. It's like I want to write a song that could use the N-word. What should I talk about? What rhymes with trigger?
Wait, who is that character?
That's Bob Dylan. Just thinking as he's writing a song.
But you're saying he wasn't doing that. He had
I'm just thinking, like, that's one of my ideas sometimes happens. But like, I feel like he did that because he was angry and he wanted to talk about the problems with society, and that's one of them. I still haven't seen the movie with Denzel Washington with the same title, Hurricane.
Was that Denzel?
Yes.
Oh man, that's bad. I thought it was a different actor. I seriously. Oh, okay. Wait, Will Smith did Ali.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, I don't think I've seen either of those movies. I'm just not a big boxing fan.
Oh, dude,
but,
I'm a boxing fan. I don't box, but I love watching it and seeing it.
Cool. That's a good segue to. I was reading about Bob Dylan. I was actually Googling if he still smokes, because he's like always with a cigarette in early videos and photos. And he just turned 81 this year. He's still, or maybe 82.
He's old.
He's old, but I've never heard he had issues with like lung cancer or anything. Like he's still strong, and people say that he's very physically fit for his age because he owns or like has a share of a boxing gym and does a lot of boxing.
That's crazy.
I know. I was surprised when I heard that's his preferred exercise.
This is going to segue, but I want to bring this up. Do you like Andy Warhol?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, like Andy Warhol worked out a lot because of his incident in '68 when he got shot. The doctors told him, like, you need to work out because, the muscles is helping you. If not, that bullet wound is going to be weak and your body's going to be frail and all that stuff. So you have to work out. So he doesn't want to show like his tones and everything. So he purposely wore a lot of clothes so he looked like a frail kid. But he loved doing arm wrestling. He always won every arm wrestle.
Wow. Andy Warhol was a
arm
wrestling hustler.
So he's got like big muscles. So it makes me wonder if Bob Dylan was the same. Like he looks like a frail 80-year-old kid, but like 80-year-old boy man. But like in reality, he could be like that Dragon Ball Z character. I forget their names. I don't know my enemy that well, but you know what I'm talking about. That old man, and then like he looks old, and then once he takes his shirts off and clothes out, he's really strong and toned.
I've never really watched Dragon Ball Z, but I can picture that.
Do you know?
Type of
Oh yeah, but
character.
as long as you know who I'm talking about.
There's photos of Dylan from the 80s where he's like wearing like a leather tank top or like a leather vest, bare arms, and he's pretty ripped in that era. Like you can tell he was working out. I haven't seen him without his like cowboy jackets in recent years because he's always just covered up. But he could be hiding some guns under his shirts.
So it's safe to assume that Bob Dylan likes boxing.
I think so. You could see that from some of his songs. Besides the Hurricane song, he had songs from I guess there was a boxer named Davey Moore that he wrote an angry song about in his acoustic period. He was killed, I think, in a boxing match. I forget the story. I used to know his catalog a lot more, but I think I'm going to get back into it thanks to this conversation.
We just help each other all the time, huh?
What have I helped you with?
I mean, you've helped me with getting into Dylan back 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Okay, yeah. The Bob Dylan inspiration keeps coming full
going,
circle.
Going back to Blonde on Blonde.
I mean, we already talked about it more than we talked about bringing it all back home. Maybe we need to move on. We can like.
So what is it that you like about it, though?
Okay, yeah. I guess I didn't really say that. I think it's a very weird. It's like the most psychedelic he ever got, in my opinion. There's probably like actually Street Legal, a weird album from the late 70s, is like pretty weird and like psychedelic with the lyrics, but just everything about Blonde on Blonde, it feels so cool to me. It's like, I think it was 1966. You can tell there were like a few different drugs involved in the writing and recording of that album. It feels very like spacey the way he sings, the instrumentation. It's not too country or too rock and roll. It's like its own weird genre, which I've never really heard anything else quite like.
Has a rustic vibe too.
It's rustic for sure. Like every album of his is like, you can tell it's just session musicians in a room tracking together. There's nothing fussy about them, if that's what you mean by rustic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's very sophisticated to me. Like some of the arrangements are so clever. Like some of the little like piano or keyboard parts layered over the guitars. It's not just guitar and electric guitar and bass and drums. It's like there's like a lot of textures to it that I like.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna re-listen to Blonde on Blonde in the future.
I think you should. It's always been up there as I think my favorite. For some reason, I don't know. I think the songs are really good.
Okay,
I would liken it to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, just because it's long. They're both long.
You don't have to answer this question now. Maybe in the next podcast you can say this to me. But what is your favorite double disc album? 2 LP, 2 disc album.
Like a lot of the great bands, I never really got into, like Pink Floyd, The Wall, or Led Zeppelin. Is it Physical Graffiti?
Yeah, that's a 2 disc one. I forgot about that.
Like those are like the landmark ones, but I've never been huge into either of those bands. So,
do you have a favorite Zeppelin album?
Honestly, like I love parts of their catalog. It's always fun to watch them play live, but I've never like been someone who just puts on a full Zeppelin record. I have a couple on vinyl. I think I have Led Zeppelin 2 and maybe 4. I like Houses of the Holy. I think it has some great songs on it.
Okay. I want to give out this little tidbit, and this can be a good transition to the new album, Ralph and Rowdy Ways. Is that what it's called?
Rough and Rowdy. It almost sounded like you said Ralph, like the name.
Oh, sorry.
Ralph and the Rowdy Ways.
So the last song of the album, of Blonde on Blonde, the Lowlands one, I think you know this already, but the fans don't, or followers don't. Bob Dylan has a bad reputation with bands. He doesn't tell the bands what to do. But he,
Is that a bad reputation or is that freedom?
but if there's a big mistake, he'll yell at you for it. And I heard about this. Like Bob Dylan doesn't tune his guitar, so the band members detune to sound like him.
Wow.
So those are the things that I think like there's not that much freedom for it. You know, it's like he just assumes that you already know what's going on. He doesn't want to tell you what to do. So on that album, on that song, the 10-minute song, he just gave the band like a chord chart, and the band, you know, this is the 60s where the longest song is 4 minutes, right? They're used to like 2 to 3 minute pop songs. And, you know, Bob Dylan's just singing a verse and chorus, and the band doesn't know when it's going to be over because Dylan's singing another verse, another verse. And I heard there is a little tidbit, and I tried to listen to it again last time, but I couldn't hear it. Maybe you have. There's a section on that song where you hear someone laughing. And that's one of the band members laughing because kind of getting annoyed. Like, when is the song going to be over?
I've never heard the laugh.
Yeah, I never heard the laugh, but that's what people said, that there's a laugh in that song.
I've heard that same story. I didn't know about the laugh part, but I have heard that they kept trying to build to a climax, and they're like, oh, the third, fourth verse, like it must be almost over. So the band gets really like climactic, but then it keeps going for like 3 more verses. So they have to like kind of settle back into a lower energy. Yeah. So you can hear that. Like it feels like it's getting to a climax. But then there's still like half the song to go. Yeah.
And now I got to read the lyrics again. Maybe it has a good transition of what the lyrics are saying to the music. But do you think that philosophy he has with the band still had the same building block from the new album, where he just basically let the band do whatever they want?
I think you can really hear that on like Murder Most Foul, that 15-minute JFK song. Yeah. Because the band is like very sparse. The drummer is doing a lot of really interesting percussion things in that song, but it feels very freeform. It's like improvisation. What
I really like about that album, that song from that new album, is the cello work. The cello just gives a really creepy vibe to it. Is it a cello?
Is there cello on Murder Most Foul?
That's what I think. That weird ambient sound. I'm thinking it's cello. I didn't pay attention or look into the.
Yeah, I didn't notice the cello.
The musician. I think there was cello, like the weird, like just ambience, like.
I just heard all the normal, like his last few albums have been very like Americana vibe, acoustic, like guitar, bass, drums, of course, and piano. But I didn't notice cello. I'm sure it's there, and I was paying more attention to the lyrics when I listened to it. But yeah, I'm sure he still operates the same way. I can't see him changing at 81 years old to being more like demanding of his band to play a certain way. It feels like, he tells them the chords and they just run through it and record it live in the studio. I wonder if he does the vocals, if he cuts the vocals live, with every take, or if they're overdubbed. They have to be done live, I would think.
Yeah, because I feel like he's one of those people who is a creature of habit. You know, that's the vibe definitely. I get. Like I do remember, like when I saw him live, you see the band members paying close attention to what Bob Dylan's doing. Isn't like trying to see what chords to play instead of just always, instead of being robotic, like, okay, the next chord is this, and they're like, okay, what's going on? Because I noticed when I saw him live, he doesn't sing with the rhythm of the music. He always just changes the melody. He's off rhythm all the time.
You think he's off rhythm, or is he perfectly syncopated against the music?
It could be. That's why Dylan is Dylan,
He always feels like he's on, like the music is following him, of course. But I think his singing is actually improved on this album compared to like Tempest. Do you remember? Did you listen to his I think it was 2012. It's his last album of original music was like well, 10 years ago
Is that
from
the one
now.
with the newspaper covers, or like there's a lot of fonts and it's black and white with a little bit of
No.
red?
It's got like a red cover. It looks like an angel.
No.
Kind of looks like the drawing you were making on Procreate. We can put a picture of it.
God,
Send me
I'm
that
not,
photo.
I'm not done yet, though.
What? That one looked done to me.
I need to add some more stuff. But
We didn't include any art making footage in this one. Maybe later.
right here. But I do remember somewhere in the 2000s, the music community was saying that Dylan lost his voice. He couldn't sing like he used to, which made me laugh because I'm thinking to myself, he could never sing in the first place. But the more the more you listen to it, the more I think, no, you're right. He is singing. You're the one who blew my mind with this little fact. Well, it's not a fact. I was just dumb to know this. That Nashville Skyline era, I thought it was someone else singing.
Really?
I thought it was someone else singing,
He does sound extremely different on that album.
Different tone. Everything was completely different. I thought it was someone completely different. I didn't know it was Bob Dylan.
That'd be wild if Bob Dylan just releases an album under his name writes the songs but has someone else sing it.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I've never really been that into that album. In fact, after Blonde on Blonde, like the next few albums, I don't even like John Wesley Harding that much. It's okay, but until like Desire or Blood on the Tracks, late mid 70s, I think he becomes like making masterpieces again. But those 10 years after his supposed motorcycle accident, I say supposed because there's a whole conspiracy theory that it was a minor injury, but he just had enough of like his world touring superstardom and needed a break. So he made it sound worse than it actually was.
That makes sense because you can tell from what we've seen that, celebrityness or stardom and all that stuff can really make you go insane.
Yeah.
It can really damage your mental health. So good for Dylan to lie to us because he needs his mental health.
Yes, good for him to lie to us. So we've been talking about Rough and Rowdy Ways, but we haven't really given like an overview of it.
Yeah, I want to know what you think about it.
Well, I want to...
Or you want to ask me questions?
I want to start by responding to how you introduced the topic last week. You said you wanted to compare our favorite albums to that album. And when I asked if it was good, you had a very cryptic response. You laughed and you said no comment.
I mean, there's moments where I think it's great and there's moments where I think it's horrible. Like, I think it's just like back in the 60s, he put a lot of effort into what he was doing. Like a lot of the words he thought about what he wanted to put, or maybe he didn't. But you can see there was an effort put in the lyrics. Here, there's moments where I just feel like he just doesn't care anymore. He just wants to put music for the sake of putting music, I guess. But there's other moments where, like, okay, he still got it. Like, the 15-minute epic JFK death song, there were some good moments, and there's some, like, why did you put that? Like, rub-a-dub-dub. Why did you have to put rub-a-dub-dub? That's where I find him comical. Like, do you even care? Like, what's the point of putting that? But like, overall, the 15-minute, epic song, it gave a vibe of like the beginning of the end of what we have of American civilization, because that really did change and it changed society a lot. And you can make the argument that was the first trauma experience that the boomers had. They never experienced Pearl Harbor. What we've experienced as whatever generation we are, millennials, whatever. Our first one arguably is 9/11. So JFK's death was their 9/11. So I highly recommend, I highly like and find him, quote unquote, I don't want to say the word genius, but I can't think of another word. Brilliant. How about that? Brilliant how he put the delivery of JFK and how impactful that was to that generation, the boomer generation. But why do you have to put rub-a-dub-dub?
I kind of forget the context around that line, but to me, I find it funny. Like adds a little bit of levity to a dark, very dark topic. That song is weird because even the initial lines, which I remember better than like the middle and end of the song, he says like it's a good day to live and a good day to die, and like it's a little tongue in cheek the way he like introduces the topic of JFK being killed. But then it gets very dark and like reflecting on the trauma of that.
I also like the tongue in cheek in that song of him making fun of the conspiracy theories of JFK's death. You know, talking about the Illuminati and whatnot. You know, because I guess that's part of American culture, like the what ifs and the conspiracy theories. That's what is a build. I mean, we make the argument, but it's a building block of what American culture is. You know, Freemasons and whatnot.
Yeah, which, by the way, we've already talked about Smashing Pumpkins like more than is necessary, but Billy Corgan appeared on The Tonight Show playing their new single, and he had a Freemason symbol on his shirt, and all the YouTube comments were like speculating, is Billy a Freemason?
A mutual friend of ours was texting me that the Pumpkins was playing at Howard Stern show
recently. Okay.
And the band looks pretty like they're in hell. Like, you know, they're not having a good time. Like Billy's
how
whipping
it
them.
Seemed for a while. James always looks miserable on stage. I think Jeff Schroeder's just happy to be there because he wasn't in the original lineup, but it's a big band that he gets to tour with. But yeah.
Do you think Jimmy and Billy still fight? Like, off stage?
I don't know. I think they've each realized the value of the other person and like feel like they're just like a married couple in band terms. Like they just need each other to make their best work or something. Although you could hardly call their recent stuff either of their best work, but they feel like they've like settled into a just balanced work situation. There doesn't seem to be much tension between them two.
Love and marriage. But okay, going back to Rough and Rowdy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought the lyrics, there were some really funny moments. The one, I forget the name of the song. I think it's the third track where he talks about like collecting body parts to make like the perfect person. He says he's like visiting morgues and monasteries. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
I thought for you with your former profession that would have caught your ear. He talks about like harvesting livers and
I should listen to
body
that.
parts.
I don't remember that.
It sounds like some weird like Frankenstein's monster zombie song, but it's very playful and enjoyable in that way. There's a lot of very slow songs with like no drums, just like sparse acoustic guitar and piano, and like he's basically like doing spoken word over the top.
Yes, and that's why my favorite song is the first song. Because it has that. No drums. It's just him talking. And I think it's his most... I don't know his discography that well. I listened to like a good 70% of his discography. But I think that song is his most autobiographical. I Contain Multitudes.
That's a great song.
Because yeah, it's lyrics. True. Like he does want to show who he is to the public, but at the same time he wants to be a private person. So... You know, he's vague, but he isn't at the same time. That's why, like, I Contain Multitudes, because it's true. He does.
He says, I paint landscapes and I paint nudes in that, and it rhymes with I contain multitudes. Mm-hmm. When I was working in my studio, listening to that like 2 or 3 times, that line always like gave me a little jolt of like excitement. Like, hey, Bob Dylan paints too. You know, he's a pretty accomplished painter.
Is he better than Ringo Starr?
I don't know what Ringo's paintings look like. I've seen
Here's
Paul
a picture of
McCartney's.
Ringo Starr's right
yeah,
here.
We'll put up Ringo's paintings. Maybe.
Oh, you're gonna love it or hate
Paul
it.
Paul McCartney is pretty into painting too. They're okay.
All right, there's some homework for you. Who's a better painter? Paul McCartney? Because I've seen some of his stuff and it's pretty cool abstract stuff. Paul McCartney, which is right here as an example, or Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
Oh, I've got to look at Lars's paintings.
Oh. Dude, have you seen the documentary Some Kind of Monster?
Oh yeah, I've seen it a
Pretty
couple
good
times.
stuff. Pretty good stuff.
Yes, very entertaining band drama.
Okay, 2 questions. What's your favorite song from Rough and Rowdy?
I think the second to last song, and I forget the title, but he says the word Key West a lot.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I like that song. It's just, it has an unusual melodic quality, and like it's not just like country or rockabilly chord changes. It's something a little more vague, but I like the lyrics of it. It all kind of blended together, so I had to like look at the lyrics and like listen to a little bit of each song this morning to even remember which song was which, because I listened to the full album like 3 times. But that one's good. The one I was saying about the morgues and the mortuaries is good. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to listen to it anymore.
No, I think
I'm going to take a break.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done with that album. I mean, I'm going to listen to that Morgue one. I forget the second question. I think the second question is compare your favorite album, Blonde on Blonde, to this one. Like the content of what he's saying, to his tone of voice, everything. Do you think he still got what he has? Obviously, I'm kind of calling myself out on this stuff because Blonde on Blonde is better than Rough and Rowdy. But I'm asking about the transition from what he was to now. Are you still? Do you like it or no?
It's very different, but there's still similarities. He still ends with like a super long song.
That's true.
Murder Most Foul is like the sad-eyed lady of the lowlands of this album. And like he's just a guy who's seen a lot. He's in his 80s and he's like reflecting on his life and his legacy, and it's like a book of poetry that happens to be set to music. Like the lyrics, I think are pretty damn good. I didn't retain every word after the number of listens I had, but like I could tell there was like he was into it. He was really going for something, and he hasn't put out original material in 10 years. So like, I guess it was 8 years since the last album.
I remember he released that Christmas album, and he released that it wasn't Frank Sinatra, but like was it Frank Sinatra?
Yeah,
or like top 40 like show tune songs.
It was songs that had been like previously recorded by Frank Sinatra.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, 2 or 3 albums of just like American standards or covers. I didn't even listen to those, and
I did.
Maybe they're. Oh, really?
And I asked myself, why do I torture myself with this stuff? I do want to say about that album is that no disrespect to the band, but I really enjoy Bob Dylan's new band.
They're really good musicians.
That I forget which song it is, but like there's a blues track, and I think the band did better playing the music than Bob Dylan singing it. Because I mean, Bob Dylan doesn't have a blues voice. He tries to, but no, he doesn't. He doesn't have it.
I think now that he's old and his voice is so gravelly, it's like a pretty compelling blues voice.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to ask you: do you think he's being legitimate, like it's a sincere voice, or do you think he's faking it? Again, like Nashville Skyline. Do you think he might have heard Tom Waits and was like, maybe I could do that? Like, have you? I don't remember hearing any recent interviews how he sounds now. Does he sound like this? Does he sound like fucking Batman now? Not all the time.
In that Scorsese Rolling Thunder review documentary, there's some recent interviews of him, and his voice is deeper than it ever was, gravelly. So but every time you sing, you're doing a character in a way.
No, that's true. The problem I have with the new album is there's moments where he's on and there's moments where he's off. Like even with his voice, like there's moments where like that blues song, it was good, but then the next track, like he didn't deliver the line quite as well compared to other lines. But the band overall, fantastic job. Fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't look up who the band members on this album are.
Sure.
I'm assuming it's the ones he tours with.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember their names, except I think Charlie Sexton is a guitarist he's worked with for like 20 years. He's an amazing musician. And I've seen them live, like on his Neverending Tour a couple times, but that was over 10 years ago. And yeah, great band. I actually wish he would branch out a little more into other genres. Like I want to hear him do like an electronic album.
Kind of like Neil Young. Trance.
Yeah. Which I've never listened to, but I know I've seen the album cover.
It's a
and I know
pretty
he
good
did
album. It's good for its time. I mean, like 80s electronic music. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be horrible. That would be interesting if you did like a Daft Punk version, but with Bob Dylan lyrics.
Like, why not? Like,
Blowing in the Wind, but remix with Daft
he made
Punk.
it to 2022, the age of like Ableton Live and all this electronic stuff. Like, why not just put it out?
Imagine if Danger Mouse and Dylan collaborated.
That'd be probably fucking amazing. It'd be like so next generation. But he seems very set in his ways of like Americana roots rock for the instrumentation.
I recently heard that there's like a museum or an exhibition up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's leaving a lot of his work there, like his lyric pads and all that stuff. And I kind of want to visit Tulsa just to see that stuff, and also because he said the reason he went there is because I forget his name. Pete Seeger was from there, and he feels like that's like the birth roots of Americana folk music. Something I figure where I'm coming from, but I really want to visit Tulsa just to see that. And
it's like a Bob Dylan museum, just his stuff?
No, it's a folk museum, but a big section of it is Bob Dylan.
That sounds cool.
I'm interested in seeing that. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, Dylan, before we finish the conversation of Dylan, Dylan?
Yeah, we're at an hour 20 minutes. I guess not. Like, I really have no idea how intelligent any of this stuff was. But I felt that way about the last one too. And then listening back, I was like, we made some good points. So I think,
and we had 620 views in 2 weeks.
That's all that matters, right? We got to try to beat that.
And with our amazing socks that we didn't even know that we were matching.
I know. Yeah. That's probably enough.
Yeah. I'm kind of done now.
How did we end the last one?
Well, by me asking you, what's the next topic?
Oh, I've got one in mind.
Okay.
I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I think it will be good. I'm going to preface this by saying, like, you're one of the few people I can talk about Bob Dylan with, because like you've given the music a chance, and I think you genuinely connect to it.
Yeah, thank you.
And a lot of other friends, like they just don't get Dylan, or like think it's like just ugly sounding.
It's an acquired taste, and again, it took me a while to get into him. Like I listened to him like 5-6 times, and then I liked him. So it's an acquired taste,
which is the way it is for like most music. I feel like to get into an individual song or an album, like it needs a few listens to sink in and be able to like anticipate the changes and like really feel it. But usually music has stuff if it's something you're going to get into, it has like instant appeal. Like, oh, I like the sound of that tone or something. But Bob Dylan can be a bit grating. And I always feel a little guilty that I just like grew up around it. So I was hardwired to like it. And there's like nostalgia involved. But then I got into it like on my own later. Anyway, I was just saying this to preface another artist that I think we both have spent time listening to and enjoy, maybe for different reasons and different eras of their career. But I think we should review The College Dropout, Kanye West, and whatever his latest album is, which I haven't listened to.
Is it Donda?
It might be. I haven't listened to it.
Oh, dude. It's
So
a good
this is. I know you've been like listening to the recent ones and have told me that, but I haven't given them a chance, and I want to listen to Donda.
Okay, without getting into too much detail, I've already noticed a topic that we've been talking about, and we're going to talk about it again in the third album because I'm going to bring it up. Religion.
Yeah.
You know, Billy Corgan with his Christianity, Bob Dylan with his Christianity, and Kanye West with his Christianity.
Should we review a non-Christian artist?
No. I'm down for this. I like this idea a lot.
The idea of Kanye's like mega church that he started in whatever, was it Montana or something? I think he's like, he opened a huge, I might be wrong about the state.
He's got, it's either Montana or Wyoming, because I know he's got property in one of those two states.
Somewhere in the West. So, yeah, I'll have to do some research on his church, how it's going.
I didn't know that. Oh, no. Okay. So we're listening.
Is Donda religious? We don't have to get into it now.
Yes and no. I mean, I think
that's his mom's name, right?
Yeah. So that's where I think it's religious, because he's talking about his mourning his mom's death and his relationship with God and Jesus along with it.
Donda is his adore.
Yes. Okay, I don't want to talk about it more. So it's going to be his first album and his last album, right?
Yeah, unless you want to choose a different favorite Kanye album.
No.
We're just going to keep it simple, first and last.
Dude, I was doing my best for this episode to be less than an hour, but I guess we just like talking.
There's so much to say about, but like maybe it's just like the impulse to keep talking. But like we could have talked even longer about like bringing it all back home. I feel like, but it's okay. We already went longer than what we wanted.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar.
I'm Dylan,
and this is the Odd Podcast.
Let me say that again. What if it was just the Oddcast?
This is the Oddcast. Should we call it the Oddcast?
I kind of like that.
Let's do. This is the Oddcast. ODcast. Yeah. Goodbye.
Let's make the song. Grab your guitar. I was just playing a C chord, but. How should the melody go? Oddcast. We might have to do another take of that, because I don't know what the fuck to say. Because I really want to like pitch our voices up. It makes it sound less cringe for a jingle.
I'm just gonna say that again. Podcast. Sing with me. 1, 2, 3.
Oddcast. Oddcast.
I think that was the best. All right, cool.
For now.
Yeah.